Hi, I'm Natalie Roberts, and I'm the Projects Director at Trees for Houston. I'm also a certified arborist. Today we're going to be talking about proper watering techniques for an established tree. There are many different factors that go into watering your tree. Some things that you could consider are the type of soil you have, where you have your tree planted. Is it close to a water source? Is it far away? You could also think about the different types of species and what their water needs are. So all of these factors can really play a role in making the decisions on how much to water and how frequently you should be watering your tree. Watering is crucial for the survival of your tree. However, there are some things that can go wrong when watering your tree. You can overwater or you could underwater your tree. If you are overwatering your tree, some things that could happen are the yellowing of your leaves or even root rot. If you're underwatering your tree, the leaves could start wilting or you could stunt the growth of that tree. One of the factors you're going to think about before you start watering your tree is the frequency. How often are you going to water that tree? Seasons can greatly change how much you're going to water your tree and how often you are going to water that tree. For instance, in the winter months, we typically have a lot more rain in the south, so you're not going to water your tree nearly as often nor as much. Whereas in the summer, where we're getting way less rain, that is whenever you're going to want to increase the amount of watering. You're going to want to water, 2 to 3 times a week for maybe 10 to 15 minutes, depending on the size of your tree. Whereas in the winter, you can maybe water once a week for 10 minutes, and you can do that for a couple of months. Now, if you have a more established tree, all of the watering frequency is going to be greatly reduced unless there is a drought. Whenever we have a drought, especially in the south, you're going to want to water your tree a lot more, because some of the things long term that happen to that tree is their roots start to desecrate as you have that drought, and it might take 5 years for you to really see the signs of that drought on that tree. In the past 5 years, Houston has been hit with 2 major droughts, and these droughts have led to the reduction in the roots holding down those mature trees. So that is why whenever we have a devastating storm with high winds and high rain, you see those trees fall over, because in the past, without proper watering and watering those established trees, those roots weren't able to survive and started dying off, leading to the stress in that tree, and then they fell. When it comes to watering your tree, timing is key. You do not want to water your tree at the hottest point in the day. The sun is just going to evaporate most of that water, and your tree is not going to get the proper water that it needs. You want to try to water your tree earlier in the morning or later in the evening, predominantly when the sun is setting or when it's cooler out. This will help ensure that all of that water is getting to those roots, and it's going to make your tree happy and healthy. Today we are watering an established tree. We have a Mexican sycamore here. It has been planted in the ground, as you can see. It does have some cement around it. But what I have going is I have a water hose here. It's not on full blast. This is about medium strength. And what you're going to want to do is just kind of take this, just to save yourself some time, lay it not at the base of the tree. You do not want to water near the base of this tree. You have to think, whenever you have an established tree, a lot of people like to consider the drip line of the tree. That is okay, that is completely fine, especially in the situation that we are with this tree, having the concrete padding all around it. But I like to think of trees kind of like a wine glass on a dinner plate. So the roots actually go out way further than the crown line, especially here in Houston. They're going to be traveling a lot. This tree is not going to have that because of this concrete pad that I keep referencing, but putting it right here is really just going to stunt the root growth. So if you just keep watering near the base of the tree, the roots are going to think that that's where the water is, and they're not going to travel out, not stabilizing your tree properly. So when you have a established tree like this, especially at this size, you want to take it out. You can use the drip line of the tree, and the drip line is just kind of where the canopy or where the leaves go out to. Use that as a guide. And like I said, keeping the water on that kind of middle blast, not too hard, not too light, but just enough that it's soaking the tree adequately. Something about this size, we'd maybe leave it here for about 5 minutes before kind of moving around to the other parts of the roots. Another method of watering your tree, you could use a 5-gallon bucket. I have one right here. I like the water hose method, preferably the best, but sometimes you're kind of wondering, how long should I really water my tree? I like to use the bucket method to really help give you an idea of what 15 gallons really looks like with the proper amount of water coming out of the hose. If you're going to fill up the bucket, you can just take the bucket and dump it on the tree, or you could drill holes at the bottom of your bucket. That way you can ensure that you're going to get that slow drip and not just kind of dump all the water on top of those roots. When you do that, you chance having a lot of runoff of that water and it not soaking down into the roots. So I'm going to show you how long it takes to fill up a 5-gallon bucket on a slow drip on the hose. And then you can take that, multiply it by 3 is what I'm going to do, 5 gallons. I want 15 gallons of water on this tree, so we'll see how long that takes. All right, so it took just about 3 minutes to fill up this 5-gallon bucket with water on a slow drip of the hose. So I want to give this tree about 15 gallons of water, so I could water this tree on a slow drip with the hose for about 3 minutes, kind of per side of the tree. I know it's a circle, but 3 different spots for about 3 minutes each. You could round it up to 10 to make a whole even number. And even though we've talked about overwatering and not wanting to do that, we're in the kind of early stages of fall here in Houston. It is still 90 degrees outside, so I could go ahead and do an extra 5 minutes and just make it a 15 minutes, giving it 20 gallons, especially if there's no irrigation nearby. This tree has irrigation, but the trees I have at my house do not have that. So sometimes I give them just a little bit of extra water because not everyone always has time to go out every day to water their tree. So those are the situations where it is okay to give it a little extra, but make sure you are watching your tree for those signs that we talked about overwatering your tree. That is the most common thing that we see here in Houston, is the overwatering of your trees. Many of the species that we have in the Houston region do have some drought tolerance to them. So I highly recommend looking into those species. If you maybe are a little worried you're going to overwater your tree, worried about the droughts and lack of water that we have here. But ultimately, I think if you watch this video, you're going to do just fine. So we talked about using a bucket to water your tree where you can drill holes at the bottom and let it slow drip out. I'm just going to dump out the water, but I'm going to do it in a very, very slow manner so as to not let a lot of that water just run off and not soak into those roots. And I'm not doing this right at the base of the tree because remember, I want the roots, those newer roots that are kind of probably, in this area, getting that water. And this is 5 gallons of water going on to this tree. So sometimes I tell my volunteers that it should take you just as long to water with the bucket as it did to fill it up. So remember, it took us about 3 minutes to fill this bucket up with water. So it should take me about 3 minutes to water with the bucket. Make sure we're getting all sides of the tree. In conclusion, it is very important to water your tree properly, whether it's to making sure that it grows properly or making sure that you're avoiding any mortality in the tree and making sure everything is safe. You want a happy and healthy tree.